I've been thinking about all the different transitions that we go through in our lives, and mainly the transition that I'm going through, which is the transition from like teenagehood to adulthood. And this isn't just for people who are making that transition, but just in general. I was just thinking about how much dependence we have on things and people, and ultimately I feel like the only person or thing that we should depend on is God, right? But when we've been living a life where we depend on our parents to do things for us, or we depend on our teachers to remind us of things, or we depend on our friends to do things with us or for us, when we make those transitions, it can be harder to become independent. And I like to consider myself a very independent person. Grew up very self-sufficient, very self-reliant, so I do everything alone. I do everything for myself. I don't wait for people to do it for me. But even now, someone like me is still feeling the pressure of making that transition. And, it's just little things like I'm used to going to church with my whole family, right? And my mom went to work today, and so I have a commitment at church. I do kids ministry, so I watch the children there. And so though my mom's at work, I still have that responsibility and that commitment to show up to church, right? And so I can drive and whatever, so I was gonna go to church by myself, and right now I'm just sitting here with my clothes laid out on my bed, and I'm about to go to church by myself, and for some reason that's so nerve-wracking. And it's not because I'm afraid of the church, it's not because I'm afraid of being alone, it's just because as much as I love responsibility and I've always had it my whole life, this type of responsibility feels different. And so when we step into adulthood, I see that as stepping into the world and the way the world does things. And a lot of people get lost in this cycle. A lot of people call it the matrix. I call it a cycle. And I was talking to God about it the other day, and I was telling him, I know that I'm going to step into the real world. I know that I'm going to have to be responsible for myself. I know that my dependence will be on only you. I know that I'm going to have to learn about finances. And I know that there's so much mistakes to make and lessons to learn. But through all this, I don't want to get to the place that you have for me. I don't want to step into the real world and lose myself trying to find myself. That is exactly what I told God. I said, I don't want to lose myself trying to find who I really am. And it's really easy to step into the real world and lose yourself. It's really easy to get out into the real world and realize how cruel people and things really are. And so I'm just trying to use this period of time before I graduate high school and this summer break before I enter university to brace myself and to prepare myself. And I wanted to make this episode to encourage you people to always have your own back. God got you, but a lot of the times we put a lot of dependence and hope in people and in things, even family members and friends sometimes, and it's just they're always changing and they're always failing and they're flawed simply because they're human beings. But God is not flawed, right? And so if you're like me, even if you're not going to university, maybe let's just say you've been working in your hometown, you've been living here, and it's time for change and God is moving you. If you're anything like me, we're moving very far away from our hometown, and we know nobody in the city or the place that we're going to. You cannot show up to that place not loving yourself, not trying to discover who you are through Christ, not feeling worthy, low self-esteem, not trusting yourself. I think that is the biggest one for me, and that's the one that I cannot stress enough. You cannot show up in these places literally not trusting yourself. That is the worst thing that you can do, is to show up in the place that God has for you and not trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you second guess every decision that you make, or you make a decision and you start over explaining to justify your decision so that you don't feel guilty or you don't feel wrong. And yes, we're human, and yes, we will trip up, but you cannot go to that new city and be I want to live here. No, I actually want to live here. Wait, but should I live here? Should I put it in deposit? Wait, I don't trust. You cannot show up not trusting in yourself. if there's anything you take away from this video or this audio today, take away the fact that you need to build that trust within yourself. A lot of the times during childhood, self-trust is broken. We don't trust the people who are supposed to have our backs, and so when we grow up, when we're supposed to have our own backs, we don't trust ourselves because we're mirroring what we saw growing up, if that made any sense. So there's never the right time. The right time is right now, and we have to be very intentional about building ourselves back up, and God will help you through this whole entire process. Trust me, you don't want to do it alone because it is brutal, but you need to have your back, and you need to trust that whatever God has for you is for you, and you have to trust that you're worthy enough to receive it and to have it and step into the fullness of who you are, because the last thing that we want is to show up in that beautiful blessing, in that place that's going to change everything for us, and still not trust ourselves. Do you know how scary it is to be around a bunch of people you don't know in a city you don't know, hours away from where you originally live, and have to make a decision, but yet you don't trust yourself? Who can you trust? Who can you trust? Who else do you know other than yourself, right? And so oftentimes we're our biggest critic, but we have to be our biggest fan, okay? We can trust ourselves to do something, and that might not turn out well, but it's not about right or wrong. It's about building that foundation of trust in you. Okay, I trusted myself to make this choice. I thought this was the right choice, and it ended up not being the right choice. That's not a reflection of me. That's not a reflection of my truthfulness. That is just a reflection of things didn't work out. This was just not in God's will. It didn't necessarily have to do with me trusting myself. We have to rebuild that trust in ourselves, because there's going to be a lot of decisions you have to make before you find those group of friends, before you find those people who aren't family by blood, but you call them family. Before you get settled, you need to start with a firm foundation, and that starts with you. And it starts with a choice to trust yourself, right? And to also trust God. So that is just my reminder for today. Wherever you go, whatever you do, however you show up, you need to believe in yourself. Get delusional if you have to, but you need to believe in yourself and believe that everything that you are going to get and that you have it because you deserve it.